Welcome back to another edition of the Wolverine.com podcast. I'm Chris Balas. With me is Clayton Sayfie, who was on the road this week in Atlanta watching a couple of basketball recruits, and Elliot Gould, who is, people didn't know, was a huge basketball fan, Michigan basketball fan. Actually, this is our Jeff Schiller, Elliot Gould's doppelganger. Jeff Schiller, M Hoops One on the message boards, one of the more knowledgeable basketball minds I've ever met. A huge part of our forum. And I was thinking earlier, Clay, you probably have no idea who Elliot Gould was until Jeff told you that
he just told me.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm good.
Yep. So you're good.
Good
now.
reference. Good reference.
Yep. And he was not the only. That was not the only role he played as the dad in Friends. So he had a few other ones too. If you saw Ocean's 11, he was in there. Some great flicks, and probably some more that Jeff would know of going way back. So. Way back. So first things first, man, I want to tell you guys about Manscaped. The Olympics, Euros, baseball, major championships, and concerts are all in this summer. And you know what isn't? A wild and hairy bush. That's actually what they said. So tame your jungle with help from our friends at Manscaped, the leaders in below the waist grooming. Their 4th generation performance package includes the brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Love it. If an athlete treats their body like royalty, why not treat your jungle like a Olympic gold? Fellas, do right by your balls and join the 2 million men worldwide who do trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com with the code 20GoBlue. Again, that's 20GoBlue. So, Jeff, I don't know if you've gotten yours yet, but we're going to send one over to you, and Sue will appreciate it.
So, sounds like an NIL opportunity.
Absolutely, an NIL opportunity for our Jeff Schiller / Elliot Gould. So, okay, guys, we're going to talk some basketball and some basketball recruiting. We had a ton of basketball stuff up on the site this weekend. And it's funny, we get some concerns from people that we work for and work with that say, hey, this is supposed to be a football school. The basketball articles have been off the charts, man, and getting reading because people are really excited about Michigan basketball. And let's be honest, we put up a poll like two weeks ago, I think it was, and said, are you more excited for basketball or football season? And 65% of the people said they were more excited about basketball season. I never thought I'd see the day, but that's the excitement that John Beilein and Juwan Howard have created in Ann Arbor by, 12 years, 14 years of great culture. So, Jeff, did that surprise you at all? And which way did you vote, buddy?
Actually, I didn't vote because I figured everybody know how I'd vote. Although I was longer term football fan than I was a basketball fan.
Yes.
But it doesn't surprise me. I mean, people like a winner, and right now, the basketball team is very hot, and the football team is reloading. So
yeah, very not.
I think
diplomatic.
I think at that point, people are very excited about the basketball program. We were, literally an inch away from the Final Four last year, and could be every bit as good or better this year.
Yeah, it really could be. Really, a lot of it depends on Devontae Jones, and that's where I want to start. We're going to get to Clay talking about Doug McDaniel here, the point guard in the 2022 class. But when it comes to point guards and leaders, I thought Mike Smith did an unbelievable job last year. There were some games in which he looked a little overmatched, Jeff, and I can go to LSU. Their quickness was really a problem for him. He seemed to be a little bit of have a little bit of a confidence problem in that game. Devontae Jones, it's going to be interesting because you and I both saw him, and we didn't see pure point guard when we saw him play in those NBA G League elite games. So are you concerned at all that maybe there's going to be an issue there with him at the point? Because in speaking with people close to the program, they're saying this is the guy who's going to be running the show for us.
I don't think I'm worried about him not being a pure point, because I think he and Eli Brooks can both do some ball handling. You don't have to run an offense with a guard who controls the ball 85% of the time. John Beilein ran the first 30 years of his career with a 2-guard offense precisely because he usually didn't have a point guard who could handle the ball 80% of the time. Then came Darius Morris, then came Trey Burke, then came Derek Walton, then came Xavier Simpson, and then came Mike Smith. And you had that guy for the last 10 years. But there are teams which are very good with alternating guys handling the ball. And I think there are enough guys that can handle the ball on this year's team that they can run without a pure point. That said, it would be a different offense.
It will be a different offense, and Eli Brooks can play. He's going to play mainly off the ball. The backup's going to be Frankie Collins. Clay, I saw you post that video of Frankie getting an alley-oop and just inside the free throw line. Unbelievably athletic. It's interesting, though, again, talking to people close to the program, they said you know what? He's probably going to have the kind of start that Xavier Simpson did his first year. And then maybe people will be down on him. He's not a shooter. And we knew he wasn't a shooter. He didn't take very many. He's got decent form, but everything that we've heard about him is true. So you think that you'd be comfortable with him providing it without having seen him? It's going to be one of those roles where he's going to be playing probably 5-10 minutes in a backup role if Devontae Jones is who we think he is.
Maybe more than that. I mean, I don't think that Devontae Jones is going to play more than 30 minutes a game. And unless you're going to move Eli to the point and you're going to have to find minutes for Kobe Buffkin or Zeb Jackson or somebody like that, I would think that you're going to get about what X provided as a freshman, which is 10, 12 minutes a game, foul trouble games, and things of that sort. Maybe a game where he has to play 20, maybe a game where he plays 5. But I think he's going to play his minutes, and he's going to get acclimated to Big Ten play and be ready to go as a sophomore. I mean, X wasn't a great player as a freshman, but you could see the defensive chops. Yep. You could see the passing ability. You could see all sorts of things in Xavier Simpson as a freshman. And I think you'll see the same thing out of Frankie Collins.
Clay, how different is Doug McDaniel than a Frankie Collins or a Devontae Jones? You've seen film on all three of these guys. To me, he is more. Frankie Collins can get in the lane anytime he wants to. Now, the knock on Doug McDaniel, too, is that he's not a great shooter either. Now, he's had his moments. He wants to be a starter by his sophomore year. You know, he's going to be competing with is Frankie Collins. So are these guys at all similar? Because it seems to me that Doug McDaniel's got a little bit more of a pull-up game.
Yeah. And, you know, I kind of wrote this in my little write-up afterwards, that we know that the knock on him is that he's not, you know, an elite shooter at this point. But I was watching very closely, even in warm-ups and things like that, to see as many possible jump shot reps as I could. And I like his stroke. I like his free throw stroke too. So I think he has potential there. And yeah, I think he is a little bit more of a pull-up. Frankie Collins is a guy that when he gets downhill, I feel like he's going to go all the way to the rim. And that's more his game. And he's crafty down there too. But Doug McDaniel can pull up. And crafty is a word that I think a lot of people associate with Doug McDaniel because, you know, I've heard it from multiple of his coaches now. And then I saw it in person from the court the other day, where he can get in the lane and you think he's going up for a layup. And next thing you know, he's just dishing it off to another guy. We had one of those clips in our little film on this same YouTube channel, if you're watching. So, you know, creative. I think they're different. Frankie Collins, somebody said he's Russell Westbrook Jr. I don't think he's quite that. But in terms of an athlete from the point guard spot, he's more of that explosive type of guy. Doug's athletic as well, but I think he's a little more, you know, a little more less bouncy, I guess you could say. And who's not when it comes to Frankie Collins?
Yeah, Frankie Collins worked his butt off at that part of it.
Based on what I've seen, and this is going back a few years, although not too many, Frankie Collins is an athlete and a player, except that he's not a shot hunter in the same way, like Corey Sanders from Rutgers. A ridiculous athlete, a guy who is not a great shooter, but can do anything he wants near the basket. Strong, plays pretty hard. The difference was Sanders was a guy who never met a shot he didn't like. And to be fair to him, he was playing on Rutgers, where the shot he took might have been the best shot they had. And Collins is more of a passing point guard.
Yeah, and it sure seems like it. And but he's going to have to shoot the ball. You don't want to have it where, and Xavier Simpson shot 36% from 3, I believe it was his senior year. That's good, but you would ideally, you know, like your point guard to be that guy that can pull up. And he was a set shooter. Frankie Collins will be a pull-up guy, I think, more so than Xavier Simpson ever was. But going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And Jeff, I kind of compared him taking this point guard spot to, remember when Monte Morris and Derek Walton and Demetrius Jackson were all going, and who's going to be the first one to take it? Was there a pecking order? Maybe. Jaden Bradley came in first, 5-star. Then you had Seth Trimble come in first. They really thought that he might drop on his visit. And then you had Doug McDaniel coming. But I think they would have been pleased, and especially Juwan Howard, who I know loves Doug McDaniel from everybody that we've spoken with. I think they would have been pleased to get any one of the three. But you know what? Doug McDaniel's about 5'9". Clay said he was standing next to him and was looking down on him and said, "Hey, little fella, how are you?" Rubbed his head and all that. No, he didn't do that.
Not true. Not true.
but he is 5'9". And any concerns about that, Jeff? Because I mean, you got to be a pretty good shooter at 5'9" to compete in the Big Ten if you're not very big?
Yes and no. I mean, offensively, I'm not that concerned. He is so quick and he is so able to get the ball, get into the lane and pass people that his size is not going to be an issue because people are going to let him shoot and certainly let him step back. So I don't see the fact that he's short as being a problem in terms of getting his outside shot. At the basket, he's going to have to be crafty. But frankly, anybody who is going to have to be crafty near the basket because you're going against 6'10" guys and you're 6'1". Defensively, it could be more of an issue. That's where I thought Mike struggled a little bit against UCLA, against LSU, against the bigger guards. But by the same token, he's very quick and he's going to cause some pressure defensively. I can see Michigan with Collins and with McDermott being a team that plays more pressure, tries to force more turnovers, and is a little less contained than they've been in the past with the guards they've had.
Yeah, that's McDaniel, you meant, of course. And then Clay, did you see him? How did he do against the bigger guards? Was he able to get in the lane? Did you see him finish at all?
Yeah. Like Jeff mentioned, he's quick.
Yeah.
That stood out, I think, first and foremost. A little less explosive, like we said, than a Frankie Collins, but possibly quicker and very quick twitch. Like people talk about the size a lot, but I think they're kind of equating that to him not being a great athlete. I think he's a great athlete. He can get up, he can fly. I did see him get to the rim, finish on a layup through contact as well. And like I said, he's creative at the rim. So he has different moves. When you're a smaller guard like that, you figure out different ways to, finish at the rim, whether you're Xavier Simpson and you go with the hook shot, or you're, a different style like Doug McDaniel and you're able to, kind of switch hands or, go up and just get a different shot off. So I saw that. I saw him on defense being very aggressive. They ran kind of a 1-3-1, like 3-quarter type of trap, and he kind of thrived in that. He actually was on the side of that, and he was gambling a couple times, but got a few steals. I thought that was kind of interesting. I wish I could have saw him play a little bit more man-to-man, but he's known for his defense too.
Yeah. And we'll see how he does against bigger guards and having to hold his own. He's going to obviously put on some great weight. John Sanderson's one of the best in the business when it comes to that at Michigan strength coaches. So going to be interesting. I want to switch gears. We're going to get back to Jett Howard in a second because you also saw him play. And Jeff's got some lawyer stuff coming through, obviously, on his email. So it's like you have a job or something, Schiller. I don't know. So, yeah. But we're talking here now about Caleb Houstan because I saw him play a couple of games. I saw all the highlights from the FIBA U19 World Juniors, and he averaged about 17 points a game, I think it was. Played extremely well at times, didn't shoot the ball extremely well, which doesn't really bother me. You know what excited me about him more than anything, and I told his mom this when we were exchanging texts, was the way he was finishing in traffic, Jeff. He'd get bumped, and that's going to happen a lot in the Big Ten, as you know. You're going to go up to East Lansing. Sometimes you're going to get a two-handed shove that's not going to be called. You got to be able to finish through traffic. That's where I was most excited about his highlights. That's a shot, I think it was 21% or 22% from three-point range. He's a much better shooter than that, and he will be. But that, to me, was where I had my wow moment. This kid can really put it on the floor and do some stuff.
And also pull-ups.
Yes.
Even not even finishing at the basket because he's not a great athlete. For a kid that's highly rated, who is right now mocked in lotteries, he is not a great athlete. But he is such a good shooter, particularly standstill, that you cannot leave him. Which means if you're going to be and he's tall enough that you can't even give him any space because you've got a quick enough release that he's going to shoot over you. So people have to be right on top of him, which means that he doesn't need a lot of quickness to get around somebody who is right up in his face. And he can pull up, he can do all kinds of things. I mean, he did not shoot the ball well. But what that says to me, to some extent, he took a lot of shots.
Yes.
A lot more than he took when he was playing at Monteverdi. And to me, that suggests that he is a guy who is a great role player / second player to be somebody who stretches the defense, but not a guy who you want taking 20 shots a game because
Yep.
his efficiency goes down at that point.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have to be on this team. The ball's going to go into Hunter Dickinson. When Hunter Dickinson gets the ball, either they're going to double team or the other team's going to double team, or they're going to have problems. When they double team, the double team cannot come from Houston, because if double team comes from Houston, it's a 3. And that's going to change the entire way the teams defend and the entire way that Michigan runs offense.
In other words, they're going to use him like they did Nick Stauskas their first year.
Or maybe Isaiah Livers.
Right. Or Isaiah Livers. Same thing almost. But
I think he's better at putting the ball on the floor than Isaiah is.
Yes.
And I think he's a better passer than Isaiah. He's not quite as ready as Isaiah. He's not as big and physical as Isaiah. It was, at the end, more like Isaiah was as a freshman. But he can do a lot of things that Isaiah Livers
He can. And they said, speaking to people again close to the program, they said if we got Franz Wagner type numbers out of Caleb Houstan his first year, we'd be thrilled. They said that would we be happy with that? And they said, absolutely, we would. And, Franz, obviously an elite defender too. So not a great comparison. I think Caleb Houstan can be a good defender. Maybe he will be eventually. But, and what were his numbers, Clay? Franz's his first year?
I want to say Franz was like 11.8 points or something like that.
11.2 maybe. So I didn't shoot it particularly well though. So there's going to be some differences there. I would expect Caleb Houstan to have better shooting numbers. But when it comes to points per game, they said if we could get that from him, man, that would be outstanding. So we'll see what happens. It's you just don't know. We haven't seen anything about him. The one thing that Phil Martelli told me, Michigan's assistant coach, a couple of days ago about this class is how quiet they are, and they're looking for a guy that can really step up and be a leader. And one of the guys that he talked about that was a little bit more vocal, and one of the surprises of this class was Will Tschetter. And I saw him play a few times. Obviously, we saw him on the big stage going against the big school there in what's the school in Minneapolis, Minnehaha Academy, right, with Chet Holmgren. And he did okay. He missed some shots, but he didn't look like he didn't belong. And now he's gotten there. And Martelli says, hold on to your hats, man. People are going to have to hold on to their hats about this guy. There you go. And I was pretty excited to hear that, Jeff. That surprised you at all? Because to me, I thought, everybody's assuming this guy's going to be the sixth guy, but they're talking about him being a role player this year.
No, it surprises me. It doesn't surprise me that he's going to be that good. I'd be a little surprised if there are minutes to give him, barring injury. Hunter Dickinson is going to play 30 minutes a game unless he wears out or gets in foul trouble. Moussa Diabate, while he's got a long way to go offensively, is too good defensively not to play a lot of minutes. Brandon Johns, I think the light switch went on in the tournament. I think Brandon Johns is going to play a lot of minutes. And that's most of your 4 or 5 minutes. And don't discount Terrence Williams, who, in addition to playing some backup 3, is going to get some minutes in small ball lineups. So I'm not sure where Tschetter fits this year. But if you put muscle on him, he's already big and strong. But if you put a weight program on him, you can see some of the guys Purdue used to have in the Big Ten, Wisconsin used to have in the Big Ten. I will go way back before either of your time to CJ Kupek at Michigan. You're going to see the 6'8" tight end type who is muscular inside and who go out past the 3-point line and shoot it. I think he's going to be very good.
Yeah, I do too. Clay, people telling us, again, close to the program, telling us they don't think there's any way that Moussa Diabate is a one and done. Very raw as a shooter. Has got to become a better shooter in order to be better offensively, obviously. So does that surprise you? And were you kind of penciling that in as him as a one and done? Because every time I saw him play, it was the same thing. He does a lot around the basket, almost like a Maceo Baston type, if you go way back. And that's again before your time, Clay, probably. But
you guys got to get some new
comparisons for you young guys. Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
So, but yeah, but to me, I never thought of him as a one and done. And I'm going to let Jeff speak to this because he made a good point about this. But to me, he's at least a 2-year guy.
I guess my answer is he may be a 2-year guy in terms of what we think, but the only one that matters is him and his people. And a lot of people, if you come in as a top 10 player, my assumption is that you think you're going to be a one and done until proven otherwise. And so I would not be surprised whether or not he's ready. The guy the Bulls took last year from Florida State with their number one pick didn't even start.
Yeah.
He was the number 4 pick in the draft and had a long way to go offensively. The truth of the matter is he might simply go to the NBA to a team that wants to stash him, develop him, and play him, and not see him play a lot the first year. Could he stay in college? Absolutely. He may decide that he likes it. He may decide that he's improving at the college level. He may decide he can move up in the draft. He may also decide with the new NIL stuff that it's not such a requirement financially for him to go because he may be able to be making money his second year, which is something that he would not be able to do under the old system. But again, whatever we think and however long we can talk about the idea that he's not ready yet, the truth of the matter is if his people think he's ready, he's gone. Look at Iggy Brasdeikis, look at Jordan Poole. I mean, all sorts of people go that you never expect to go. And this is a kid who's top 10.
Clay, gun to your head, man. 1 or 2 years for Moussa. And what do you like about him?
Yeah, well, I'm going to say 2. And I was going to say, I spoke to the IMG Academy head coach over the weekend as well, who was out there watching Jett Howard and Jaden Bradley and some of those guys. And I asked him about Moussa, and he wanted to talk about Moussa for a while. And it was incredible stuff because, I said he's kind of a, not a kid that's on social media, didn't really do interviews. You know how much, we got from him. It wasn't much. We had to talk to coaches, like the coach I talked to. And he said, oh man, it's the opposite. He is a great personality. He got emotional talking about him because of he couldn't go home to France during the pandemic, but he was the most encouraging, upbeat, and positive guy in their locker room, in their workouts, and during their games. And he said he is going to be a guy that it's similar to what we heard about Hunter Dickinson before he came in, that he's going to be the fan favorite at the football games and stuff. This is before we knew there was going to be COVID. That'll be Hunter this fall, and that will also be Moussa Diabate this fall. According to the coach that we talked to. And so don't discount him in loving the college experience either. So, but I think Jeff's right that, sometimes some of these guys, they hear the word from their people, or they get one team that says, hey, we're going to look at you in the first round. And that's all they want to hear. You really never know until they go through the process. Hunter Dickinson was leaning that way, he said, during the process one time or another. And he doesn't feel like that type of kid. So you just never know. But gun to my head, I'm going to go 2, I think.
Okay. All right. Real quick. I got 2% battery left because it took Schiller about 25 minutes to figure out how to get on Zoom here. And us old guys don't think to plug our computers in. So Jett Howard, what'd you see from him, Clay? 100%, in my opinion, strong opinion. I stake Jeff's reputation on it that Jett Howard is going to be here in a Michigan uniform. He wants to go through the process, going to visit Tennessee. Didn't shoot the ball particularly well, Clay, but people have said he's one of the best shooters in that class. What'd you see from him?
Yeah, I mean, he was probably like 3 of 7 or 3 of 8 from 3 in the 2 games that I saw, but I wasn't concerned about that at all. They blew out 2 teams. This was kind of a tune-up type of tournament for Peach Jam coming up. So I was kind of watching the other aspects of his game and defense, talking to both of his coaches at IMG and for Knight Riders, Rashid Wesley. They're saying he needs to lock in on defense every possession. I said, is that, a big concern? They said, no, it's just a natural progression. He's got to take it a little bit more seriously there. He has the potential. I think he has the potential to be a lockdown defender against other wings. He's not an overly explosive athlete, but he is pretty quick. He is a legit 6'7". Rivals needs to move him up from 6'5". He's not 6'5".
No.
So I like his game there, and he can get to the rim too. He's not just a shooter. His role last year on IMG was to shoot and kind of move around and just, sit in the corner at times and shoot, but that's not exactly what he's going to, be at the next level. I think he has progression kind of like how Caleb Houstan could.
Jeff, real quick, 30 seconds. How do you feel about them not taking another wing if they take Jett Howard in this class? It sounds like they're going to hold out for maybe 2 bigs. I
think it's fine. I mean, I think assuming Houstan leaves, you still have enough wings. Bufkin is a wing. If Zeb Jackson can play, and play at this level, then Zeb Jackson is a wing at this point. He's 6'5". Terrence Williams. You got Jett Howard coming in. You've got Isaiah Barnes. You've got a lot of people who can play the wing position. If plus which you can always, that's the kind of slot you can fill in the spring via the portal or via a late end.
Yep.
So I would think they'd hold out for a great wing. If Eric Daly decided to go to college instead of going to Spain, that's somebody you could see them taking it and finding a spot for. But taking somebody who's number 70 just because you want to have another body, I don't see it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem likely either. So great stuff, guys. Terrence Williams, by the way, has lost a lot of weight and is looking really good, according to Phil Martelli. We're going to do a feature on him. Watch for all your basketball news and recruiting news at thewolverine.com. Don't forget about Manscaped. The world's starting to open up. Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped is here to help get you ready. Inside, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, crop preserver, ball deodorant, crop reviver toner. Jeff, you taking this down? Write it down.
Take it notes.
Plus 2 free gifts, Performance Boxer Briefs, which are the most comfortable I've ever worn, by the way, and the Shed travel bag. So great stuff, guys. Let's do this again next week, man. We've got a lot more to talk about. Appreciate your time. And thanks, Jeff and Clay, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Sounds good.